Good day, it's Father Tom, and I'm looking at 2 Corinthians 3, starting with the 17th verse. It tells us now, at this moment, now, the Lord is that Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Where the Spirit of God is, there is freedom. That is one of the great gifts of the Holy Spirit. That's, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These are things that God gives us. But where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. And liberty is one of the greatest things that we have from God. But there are always people that want to stifle liberty. Now I know, you can push liberty to the extreme, and your liberty stops at my nose. If you want to punch me in the nose, you don't have that liberty. But the Spirit of the Lord has given us liberty. Liberty to speak, liberty to proclaim, liberty to live, liberty to be free. And I don't know why, but people love to be incarcerated in themselves. I think it's part of the sin of Adam and Eve. We just love to be incarcerated in ourselves. We get ourselves into the biggest predicaments. Rather than be filled with freedom, we put ourselves under bondage. And that's not God's will. It's God's will that we be free, and that we be free as a bird. Now, I know people that are in jail that are much freer than most people that are supposedly outside the bars. They have experienced a freedom from God Himself. They have come to grips with their sin. Not all of them, of course, but the ones who have. They have come to grips with their sin. They have received forgiveness. And though they are incarcerated physically, they are really free. But then there are the people that are outside the walls of a prison, and they are in the prison of themselves. The prison of themselves. They don't know how to break through. As a matter of fact, they don't want to break through. Oh yes, they say they want to break through. I say I want to break through. But you know what? We go back to the same old chains. And those chains, are nothing that God has given us. He has given us a spirit of freedom. For where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. Freedom and liberty to do what He calls us to do. To be what He calls us to be. To go where He calls us to go. Freedom and liberty. It's very interesting that we just don't like that. Because if there is a great freedom and if there is a great liberty, maybe people will abuse it. Of course they will. Of course they will. But then we need to be corrected. But let's not take away that liberty, because that's something that God gives us. Give me an example. We're having a service, okay? I remember this service that we had. This woman came into the service. It was a Saturday evening. It was Mass. And she was as drunk as a skunk. And as I was preaching, she was answering me. And I felt that the Lord did not want me to rebuke her. Okay? That's what I felt. Until she crossed over the line. And when she crossed over the line, I just said, you know what? We will pray with you after Mass. And we'll be very grateful to do that. But you know what? I knew that the Lord was saying to me, I want you to be kind to this woman. I want you just to be kind to her. That's all I want you to be. Now, I'm going to tell you, I never received so many compliments from the homily that I gave that night. I don't think they heard a word of what I said. But because I was kind to that woman, they saw something and didn't probably hear anything. Now, I was very graced that night. I was able to listen to God and follow it through. I was very graced. I'm not going to tell you that I could have done that on my own, because you know what? What would people usually do? Get her out of here. Just get her out of here. Now, that might be the solution for another time, but not that time. Or maybe we're at a service, maybe we're at a prayer meeting, and someone starts doing something that is not common in this service. So we have people that are the prayer police that come up to them and say, you know what, you can't do that here. Rather than, you know what, you have a freedom that we need here. See, this is not the liturgy. This is something outside the liturgy. And you have a freedom that we don't have here. Maybe you need to share that with us. See, we love to be bound. We love to be bound. Now I'm going to tell you, Jesus was free. Jesus was free. And that's what drove the Pharisees nuts. They couldn't deal with his freedom. If someone was sick on the Sabbath, Jesus did not wait for the sun to set on a Saturday. He healed the person. They couldn't stand that. They couldn't deal with that. They just couldn't deal with that experience. And he would then try to say, you know, if you have an ox that fell in a pit, wouldn't you get him out on the Sabbath? This is the son of Abraham. This is the man of faith. You see, but they couldn't deal with the freedom of Jesus. They could not deal with the freedom of the Lord. You know, it's not only with Jesus, it's in the church too. Very much, you know. Freedom, you know. We'd much rather be bound. Because you know what? At least when we're bound, we have boundaries. And you know, I think we all need boundaries, but I think so many people have so many boundaries that nobody's free to get in. You know, there's the Great Wall of China built around people's lives. I remember once somebody gave me a book on boundaries, you know. That's fine. Yeah, I do need boundaries, but you know what? There are so many people with so many boundaries that, my Lord, absolutely nothing ever happens in their life because they're not free. I remember being at a meeting, somebody from the seminary, I remember it was a priest from the seminary, that said, I do not lay hands upon people anymore in confession. I asked him why. He said, because of the scandal. I said, oh yeah? He said, isn't that wonderful? You know, so you're led by fear? Isn't that beautiful, huh? It's wonderful to be led by fear. Not a good thing, you know? Led by fear. I don't think that we need to be crazy, but I don't need to be cautious. You know? People say, well, what happens if? Well, you know what? I have to trust the Lord. I have to trust the Lord. And Jesus touched people. You know, people need to be touched. We all need to be touched. And I'm going to be put into a corner of fear because of something that has happened in the church. I'm sorry. I will not do that. I have other things to do. I got better things to do with my life. You know? Other people might say, you know, you're just, you know, what if they drop a dime? Well, you know what? If they drop a dime, you know, they have to go through the hands of God. I pity them. I pity them. For freedom, Christ has set you free. St. Paul says in the letter to the Galatians, do not therefore go back to a yoke of slavery. He was talking then about the law. That it's not by the law that we're saved. It's by the grace of God. It's by the cross. Don't go back to the law. Now the law is good, but the law is not God. The one who gave us the law needs to be worshipped.